We made this.
Engage.
I'm Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise.
Michael Burnham, pleased to meet you.
What we leave behind is not as important as how we've lived.
We will continue exploring, discovering new worlds, new civilizations. That is the United Federation of Planets. That is Starfleet.
Make it so.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make It So, the Star Trek Picard podcast. My name is Kurt North, and not with me today is Tony Black. Tony Black has left the departure lounge. He's gone off and been promoted to Admiral, and I am now the captain of the ship. So I've had to bring somebody else into the fold to be my number one, and it was somebody who I've spoken to recently, actually. Someone I spoke to last week on the other podcast that's on the We Made This Podcast network, which is rarely going, and that would be Luke Winch. Luke, welcome aboard the Make It So podcast.
Thank you. Permission to come aboard the bridge.
You more than welcome. More than welcome. So I think we covered rarely going last week. I think you've guested on that one, haven't you? And you hosted the one with me last week. So how was your guest appearance on Rarely Going the other week?
Yeah, it was good fun. I was talking to Craig McKenzie, and we were doing the second episode.
Yeah.
And that was good fun, and it's been an interesting ride so far. Talking about Lower Decks. It's a show that is still trying to find its feet somewhat, but it's slowed down a little bit, and I think we're now at a point where we can start enjoying the characters and appreciating the storylines a bit more.
Yeah, and just so people can get an idea of sort of what angle you're coming from, what other shows do you have on? What other show do you have on the network? And how's this come about? How come you've been brought aboard with myself? And on why is Star Trek a particular love of yours over the years?
Yeah, well, I mean, the other show I've got on the We Made This network is a show called Observing the Pattern, which is an episode-by-episode kind of analysis of the TV show Fringe that started in 2008, I believe, and ran for 5 years. So my love of sci-fi is pretty cemented, particularly in TV. But I think my love of sci-fi started a long time ago when I was probably about 11 or 12, and my older brother used to watch Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah.
And I was very young when that came out. What was that, 87, 88?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so, and I kind of, started watching it with my brother. And I didn't really understand it all that much because I was a bit too young. But then when I got into my later teens, 15, 16, 17, and I started watching The Next Generation from the beginning. And that really is my Trek because it was the one I grew up with. And I'm currently doing a rewatch of that at the minute, actually.
Right.
But I'm only doing selected episodes, so I'm kind of in preparation for this podcast. Make It So. I'm doing a lot of Romulan episodes and a lot of Borg episodes at the minute, so I'm going through them chronologically, and because I really love the Romulans, and they're quite a secretive species, and I've also watched like some Enterprise ones where they have the first contact with the Romulans as well. So, but yeah, TNG is my primary Trek love, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast actually is just to obviously get people acquainted with yourself, and they've heard me on the podcast before. And as I say, basically, Tony runs the We Made This Podcast network, and Star Trek Picard obviously was a real brilliant piece of news that we heard, and Tony wanted to do the podcast originally. And numerous different things happened. You know, there was a moment when it wasn't happening at all. There was me and Tony had got together and said, "Let's do it. Let's look into it." And then it stopped, and then it started again, and we started doing the comics and whatever. And I'm so glad that we did, because when we got through to doing the show, it was something that was really enjoyable, and actually, you know, and the amount of people that were listening was really good for the network as well. And you know, it's not all about numbers, but we really did enjoy the fact that so many people seem to be enjoying us talk about it, which was really good. So this is kind of like the next go around, really. So just so people are aware, so that people will have seen, as we've done the show, we got up to the halfway point of Star Trek Discovery season 1. I think this was well before COVID-19 hit. And what we would decide to do was we were going to look at Star Trek Discovery. So we did a lot of those episodes, and we got through to episode 9 of season 1. Then during the pandemic, numerous different things, which I won't bore you with, came to fruition, and various different things happened. But out of that came the We Are Starfleet podcast, which is on the network, and they are now covering Star Trek Discovery. So we took a bit of a back seat, and there was a few decisions made on what we should do and where we should go with it. So this was the decision that was made, that Luke, you come aboard, and we're going to push things forward now. So what we wanted to do is just to go through the rest of season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. We've timed it just so that the final episode of Discovery for season 1 is the week before the beginning of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. So we're then going to take a break. I know it sounds a bit daft taking a break when we haven't really done much, but but I just think it leads us nicely. So we've wrapped up season 1. We leave the rest of We Are Starfleet. We Are Starfleet will then continue on the journey with season 3. And from the looks of it, season 3 is going to finish around about the 7th of January. So, you know, we've got Lower Decks going on at the moment. And then straight after that, we've got, you know, I think they said 23 consistent weeks of Star Trek, which is great to, you know, to have that number, you know, especially because that's almost like a full season in the olden days. It's unbelievable, isn't it? So when it gets to the 7th of January, we'll then probably do something early February. And one of the things that was going to happen a while back, and I've changed tack slightly, was I was going to do a singular podcast about various different Trek shows in the new universe. But I've had to scale that back because of other commitments. But what we're going to do is I'm going to use the same sort of format. So you said yourself, Luke, said that you really like the Romulans. So we'll probably look at the Romulans at some point in Star Trek Picard. And our first one is going to be on the Borg. So we'll release a special on the Borg in February, and probably the Romulans in March. And anything else that comes up, really, just anything that comes up regarding Star Trek Picard in season 2, or anything else that pops up, we'll jump on it, and we'll let you know how things are going. So that's the plan. What did you make of Star Trek Discovery? What have you enjoyed the 2 seasons so far?
I remember I've done a recent rewatch of season 1. And I enjoyed it a lot more than I did the first time. I enjoyed it the first time round, but I don't know, that I found several things didn't quite work. It took getting used to all the new Klingon lore that they added in. This kind of sarcophagus ship and everything, and all that kind of spirituality that they gave the Klingons. Which I really enjoy now, but I think at the time it was a bit of a kind of knock, really. If you understand what I mean, it didn't seem right. But the second time round, I really enjoyed it, and overall, I think it's a great Star Trek franchise.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, with Michael Burnham and stuff, it's I'm a bit the same as you. I really enjoyed season 1. And I haven't rewatched season 2 yet, but going back to it and with a bit of objectivity, looking back, it was nice to do the podcast actually to get me to halfway through the season. And so just to like kind of refresh my mind, and certain things you'd think happened in certain orders or was too quick, actually looking back, it wasn't too bad. So I think that a lot comes into play when you're wondering where is it going to go next and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's,
I did.
Yeah, so it's,
sorry,
yeah.
I did really. My favourite part of season 1 actually was all the Mirror Universe stuff. I thought that was fantastic. That was a really good group of episodes. And having the reveal of what's the captain called?
Giorgio.
No.
Lorca.
Captain Lorca was a fantastic character, brilliantly played by Jason Isaacs, and yeah, his reveal as a Mirror Universe, and the clues are there as well. And I think a second time round, you appreciate those clues that were laid down that you may have missed the first time. So it was quite a well constructed first season. I really enjoyed it, and I'm one of those people that actually quite like season 2. I know a lot of people thought it was falling back on traditional Trek kind of stories and ethos, but I really enjoyed season 2, and I thought it was quite a brave move to include Spock and have a new actor play this young Vulcan.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I take it from Star Trek Beyond. A lot of people think or say that Star Trek Beyond is the most Star Trek of the 3 Abrams films. But it's my least favourite, and I think because of that reason, I think it's really strange. It's renowned for being that good, and even though the box office wasn't as good as the other 2 were, and I actually find that obviously mine would be the order in which they're in. 09 Into Darkness, then Beyond would be the 3 and sort of the level that I would put them at. Because I'm not I think I've mentioned this on several occasions, I'm not a huge original series style fan. Mine's very much the Picard, the Drumhead, the courtroom ones, the stuff about Data, and the questions that Next Generation pose more than some of the original series. And I'm not saying that the original series are bad, because I actually adore the actual films themselves. I love the original cast films. But I feel more of affinity, like you say, growing up and the like with the Next Generation, as 87, 88, I was 8 years old growing up to that. It's all there. You kind of learn, and you got the VHS videos, and when you bought Chain of Command or The Best of Both Worlds or Unification and things like that. And a lot of that Next Generation I actually watched that way. Rather than actually, episode by episode. And it's, I don't think I've actually ever done a full Next Generation rewatch. I've seen every single episode, but I've never gone from season 1 to season 7 right the way through. I've never gone, right, let's watch the next episode. The next episode has always been either on BBC 2 at 6 o'clock at night, or on Sky, or it's just been I fancy watching that on Netflix. So, one day when I get time, when I'm not doing a multitude of podcasts, I might do that.
Yeah, like I understand what you mean about the TOS Star Trek, and I'm the same as you. Generation was my Star Trek growing up, and it's interesting that the Next Generation got better when it was allowed to break free from the Gene Roddenberry style utopia, and they allowed conflict to happen between characters, whereas Roddenberry wouldn't have allowed that at all. And from season 3 onwards, Generation just got better and better because they were allowed to have these internal conflicts and disagreements, and was allowed to have a bit of negative emotions were much more prevalent. And I think that's when TNG came into its own and became that Star Trek that we have an affinity to.
Yeah, and we'll just very briefly discuss Deep Space Nine, but by saying, and Deep Space Nine obviously went further with that, and I absolutely love Deep Space Nine from season 4 onwards. Season 3 is great. But once Worf arrives, and I remember getting the VHSs of season 4 from the local library. I think I've talked about that before, and so it was a great time to be alive at that point. You had DS9, Voyager, and Next Generation around that time, so it was nice. And obviously, we're getting this kind of feeling now. We've got Star Trek Picard. We've got Discovery. We've got Lower Decks now. We've got a Nickelodeon one coming soon.
Yeah, it's a Star Trek renaissance, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, this will come round to talking about Star Trek Picard. But just before we do, we're staying on Next Generation. What kind of are your favourite episodes of Next Generation? And what are your most fondest memories of seeing some of the episodes?
I mean, I think the first. I mean, if you were going chronologically, I think the first episode that stood out to me was The Measure of a Man, which was the kind of courtroom style one where Picard has to basically prove that Data is kind of sentient. Which I love that one, and that's probably the highlight of season 2, to be honest. Yeah. But then when you start going to season 3, you get episodes like The Bonding, which is a fantastic episode, The Defector, which is probably one of the standout episodes of season 3, and then you get the trio of outstanding episodes, which is Yesterday's Enterprise, which is great, and that was a proper goodbye to
Tasha.
Yeah. And then The Offspring and Sins of the Father, both brilliant episodes. And then topped off with, which is widely regarded, I think, isn't it, as one of the best episodes, which is The Best of Both Worlds, Part 1. Yeah.
So just a bit brief on your background, because you've got a science background, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So has that informed? Has the show informed you in any way, or do you particularly go to like the science fiction-y tropes than obviously some of the more the ethical questions and things, or is it just whatever you see on screen, or do you have a particular style of science that you quite like?
I think it's a bit of both of that, really. I mean, I love all the kind of hard sci-fi, all the tech. And it's quite funny because I think sci-fi led me into, it led me into starting a degree with the Open University in science. I'm actually doing earth science, which is a lot to do with tectonic movements and volcanoes and stuff. But I love physics and tech and engineering as well. So.
Yeah,
but I also like the ethos of it as well. That's the kind of ethical questions that come across in science, and I think TNG did a lot of episodes that kind of dealt with those ethical questions, like cloning and whether whether or not a certain medical procedure should go ahead. Is it in their best interest? All those kind of questions, and I think Star Trek's always been very, very good at putting those questions to the audience through their through their scripts.
So do you think you would have gone to the Open University if you hadn't seen Pen Pals?
yeah, maybe. It very much informed my decision. Yeah.
Where are you now? Are you up to here?
Yeah.
But moving to Star Trek Picard, then. How did you find the season? What were your first impressions when you first saw the first 2 episodes?
Chills. I proper had chills. I mean, seeing Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard back on the screen again was all those kind of memories come flooding back. That was the initial kind of reaction, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I know that you Tony, and the other guests talked a lot about Patrick Stewart's portrayal of Picard at this point in his life, and whether or not Picard and Patrick Stewart have kind of come one and the same, and whether Patrick Stewart is playing TNG Picard or not. And I always thought I always got the impression that he was, but older, slightly bitter, full of regret. He'd made some wrong turns and wrong decisions, and I think he's living with those. So I think that informs the character very much and his mood and mindset. But I thoroughly enjoyed Picard. I completely see it, and it feels like Trek, but different and forward. And I love his new crew. Who's the pilot guy? What's his name? Rios, probably my favourite character in Picard season 1.
Right.
It had a few missteps. The Romulan samurai chap, I think, was sorely underused and not very well written. But overall, I thought Picard was an incredibly strong kind of debut season. And I can't wait for season 2 to see what they do. And I love what they did with the Romulans and the Borg and this whole talk of AI and allowing it to evolve and the consequences with that. I loved all the themes that kind of came with it as well.
Yeah, was there a particular episode that you enjoyed the most out of the run?
Oh, the Impossible Box. I really like the Impossible Box.
Right, yeah, because that was a turning point, wasn't it? Because he finally got to the Borg cube, and then that was the one where Soji was being guided by Narek, wasn't it? On the floor, is that the one?
That's right. Yes, yeah. Really enjoyed that episode. It's a good tense 45 minutes. That was. Yeah,
it was good. And as I say, it was kind of like the turning point, because obviously straight after that we had it in Nepenthe, and everything was building up to this. You know, when's Picard going to get onto the Borg cube? When's he going to get there? And obviously we had Stardust City Rag. Well, what was the impressions on Stardust City Rag? Because that seems to have split opinion. So it'd be interesting to hear what you thought of it. Did you enjoy it?
It fell into character ever so slightly, I think, especially with Picard. That was Picard doing the French accent. Yeah, it kind of fell into a little bit of a caricature, but I still enjoyed it. But it was in danger of kind of stepping the line a little bit there, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting now. Strange New Worlds is when that comes out, that they're saying that that's going to be more, more episodic, going back to the old school. Whereas this one obviously had that, Stardust City Rag is probably the closest that you could get to having a solo episode. I suppose Absolute Candor, that was like a stop off episode, really. But do you like generally, or the way that, because Discovery, it's interesting that, this might be more of a special that we might bring into eventually, but the fact that Discovery has this overarching thing, but it was more episodic than some people would care to give it. Picard seemed to have stretched that out a bit more, with a couple of exceptions, as I say, like Stardust City Rag and potentially Absolute Candor. Do you like this form, this short form 10 episode storytelling? Are you happy for it to go moving into season 2?
Yeah, I'm quite happy with it. I mean, I think it's kind of the general evolution of TV, particularly with streaming channels, that this style of storytelling, and I think it has to kind of go with that flow, and it works completely well, I think. And I think keeping it as a kind of 10 chapter story works well for Picard. Strange New Worlds I don't know how well it will work. I don't know whether it might do them some damage, because I've liked the overarching storytelling of Discovery and with Picard, and I think it is the style of storytelling that we're used to now. Yeah.
And so I think other things that we need to potentially bring up, just to get you fully versed up, so you can take command when I'm not here, is there's a couple of things. So first off, the new characters. So yeah, you've already mentioned the Rios, but you've got Soji, which we'd fully expect her to come back, and Jurati and obviously Raffi. And I've known Raffi in quite, well, not Raffi herself, but the character, the actress who plays Raffi in a few things. How did you think that the balance between the new and the old works? Because obviously you got Nepenthe, which was very much a wanted and needed, and people loved that episode because you've got the Rikers back. Did you like the balance between the two, and especially given that we've got this Narek and Larissa? Is it Larissa? I think it was, and Soji storyline going on as well. Did you think that there was a nice balance between the two?
Oh, absolutely. It was just, those kind of appearances, particularly with the Rikers, it was a lovely burst of nostalgia, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why they're there. I mean, it works. It works as that kind of plot point as well, and the stop off that they have there and the rest. But it works beautifully with the story. But I think just having them, it's a really good balance, because the story is concentrating on this new kind of ragtag team. It is a bit of a ragtag team, isn't it? It's almost like. It's almost like a Firefly style of crew, very ragtag, and it's almost like this crew, this Western crew flying through space. It had a lot of that feel, and I think that works now in this timeline and where they are and where Starfleet is at the minute. But having those little dips into nostalgia and having these old crew come back, I thought was wonderful, and it worked really well. I think the balance was just right.
I think we've got to basically mention the final episode because a lot of things happen in that. But first off, Picard's Gollum. What were your impressions and first reactions to that?
Say that again. Sorry.
Picard's Gollum. What was your first reactions to Picard being, reborn as such?
I was in two minds about it, to be honest. I don't know how. I mean, until we start watching season 2, I don't know how it's going to affect him as a person. Whether it's going to change the way he is or his decisions. I mean, he's supposed to be exactly who he was, but in what is it, a synthetic golem body or golem body.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that they'll bring that into season 2 and it might affect him in some way, or do you think he'll just be exactly the same as he was at the end before he died?
Anyway, the actual fact that he's no longer hasn't got any superpowers, he's just himself. I think it'll be more of a mental thing. I think they might bring that in. The fact, is he him? It's like, I'm sorry for the American people who don't know this, but it's like the broom in Only Fools and Horses. So it's like, when you change the handle and the head several times, is it the same broom? So I can imagine them having a story element regarding that. I'm not sure it'll be full and centre. I think it will be more a case of it might get touched upon, but I don't think they'll go on it too much. The only I know, and it was a nice story point because obviously in all good things when you've got Ironic syndrome being brought up, and it was one of those things that people were asking, is he going to have it? I think they had to bring it into the story somehow. I would have liked to have seen it maybe take. I think I mentioned this in the wrap up season 1 wrap up, that I would like to have seen it maybe affect him more than it did. It kind of just was there. It got mentioned by the Doctor. And then it kind of happened towards the back end, the last episode of the season. I would have liked to have been more thread through the line of all 10. It
does get a bit forgotten, doesn't it? Like mid-season. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, I think it is a nice circle, a nice closure of that particular thread, and in that way, it does work.
Yeah. So I suppose you could say it that way, like you said there. Could it be the fact that it's closed, that part of the story has been closed because he's now, as he was, he will age as normal. He's not got any superpowers. He's just Picard. He'll just grow old and naturally die of natural causes, or in a fight or whatever it may be, in a space battle, or given the ultimate sacrifice. Which leads me to the next question, which know's coming, is what did you make to the final 15-20 minutes with Data and the quantum stuff that was happening, and the farewell to Data that Picard was able to have?
It's pretty emotional, to be honest. I found it quite moving, and I think it makes up for the fact that I don't think he had a very good goodbye in Nemesis, so I think this is a nice kind of redo or do-over for that. And I mean, I know that Brent Spiner doesn't want. Is it Spinner or Spiner?
Brent Spiner. Well, I say Spiner.
Yeah, I say Spiner. Yeah. Because I know Brent Spiner doesn't want to play Data ever again. I think he said, but there is the rumour that he's going to come back as soon, isn't it?
Yeah. I think. Yeah, potentially, yeah. And obviously, going into season 2. So, what for you, what would be your aspirations to see in season 2? What would you like to see, given all the things that you've seen in the first 10 episodes of season 1? What would you like to see follow on from, or what would you like to see new come in? What would you, if you were absolutely looking, had control over it, just thematically, or bringing a person in, or whatever it may be, what would you like to see in season 2?
I'd like to see, I mean, the crew now, so Raffi, Rios and Elnor, I'd like to see a more kind of glued together team now, because I think they've had their ups and downs through the first 10 episodes. So I want to see this kind of camaraderie and banter between them, which I think did start to kind of build, but it'll be more solidified now, I think, because they've spent more time together.
Yeah.
Enemy-wise, I think they should probably now leave the Romulans and the Borg alone, and I think I'd love to see something with maybe the Klingons, but I don't think they will, because I think Discovery's kind of done that quite heavily with the first season. But maybe maybe a nice guest appearance from Worf would be quite nice, I think.
Yeah. Did you read Una McCormack's book?
I didn't know.
Okay. Because he's mentioned in there, I don't know if you listened to the podcast, but it mentions that Worf is in charge of the Enterprise. He's captain of the Enterprise in the book.
Oh, okay.
Now, whether or not, obviously, that's canon, it depends on how you view books and stuff like that. But I think Tony says, until you see it on screen, we're taking it as canon. So it'd be nice to see Worf in charge of an Enterprise.
That would be great. That would be great. That would be excellent. But yeah, I don't know I don't know what they'll do for an enemy, as it were, or a antagonist. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think you're right with the Worf, with the Klingon stuff. I don't think they'll go there. I would personally like to see some more of the Borg. To be honest, I mean,
okay.
I can't get enough of the Borg. To be honest, I know that Voyager did it to death, but it's a really interesting concept that they've got, especially with that Borg cube being on that beach. It's been a beach cube, so you don't necessarily need to deal with the Borg. The Borg are like still that kind of, they're still out there. There's still this ominous presence, but I liked what they did with it in season 1, where it wasn't the main issue. It wasn't the big thing everyone thought, oh, the Borg are back. It was done very, very succinctly. But I'd like to see what would happen with these freed Borgs, especially kind of the immigration kind of thing and refugee status and stuff like that would be really interesting. I don't think they'll go down that route though, but it'd be interesting to see what they do. Would they bring in a new species? Potentially, maybe. But time will tell. I honestly don't know. I'm just looking forward to seeing what they come up with next. Really.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see more Borg. I mean, now that the Federation's lifted the ban on synths and Picard is in a synthetic body, there's lots of interesting things they could do with that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and because as you say, that all happened very quickly.
Yeah, it did happen very quickly. Yeah,
it would be nice to see some struggles with that. I mean, like they almost touched upon, that what Hugh touched upon, that they're just looked down upon as the rats, really. And if you've got like an allegory of refugee status like we've got, I mean, we can only look at what happened in the UK recently. Over the week or so, with some of the people crossing the channel to try and get over here, and I know that's been an ongoing issue for many a year, and it's came into the consciousness of basically UK media over the last maybe 18 months, but it sort of died down with COVID and it's coming back a little bit now. So it would be interesting to see if they did take a lead on that, but. Yeah, I would just be happy to see more Picard at the end of the day. That's the main thing. So that's all good. So next episode that you'll be seeing, or next episode that you'll be hearing is Tony. Tony's back. He'll be with Zach Moore, talking about Despite Yourself, and then the following week it'll be The Wolf Inside with you and myself, Luke. So that'll be good. But yeah, other than that's it really. Just a very quick update. I know, very quick. It's almost half an hour, but just a quick update on what's happening. So yeah, so Make It So it's still live and kicking. We will be, as I say, what we'll be doing is releasing these Discovery episodes. Having the break, enjoy yourselves on Star Trek Discovery Season 3. No doubt we'll be tweeting about it at some point. We are Starfleet. Please make yourselves go over there, listen to their coverage of Star Trek Discovery Season 3 and everything that they've put together over the last few months. So I really do appreciate them coming aboard and Mike and the crew. So that'll be good to hear what they've got to say about Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Luke, yeah, I don't know if you're. I don't have any plans to be on Rarely Going Again. Are you going to be on Rarely Going Again, or is that just your two times and you're done kind of thing at the moment?
No, I'm hosting episode 5 and 7, I think.
Right. Okay. So catch you over there. So where can people find Rarely Going then, if people are looking for it? Probably on our Twitter handle, on the Make It So Twitter handle. Yeah,
you can. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, ignore that. Yeah. So look out for that. So obviously we've been tweeting on the Twitter handle on the John Luke Podard as this is what we class our flagship. With everything. So yeah, listen to Luke on those two episodes. That'd be great. And then, as I say, we'll be back in the new year. So have a good Christmas and New Year, everyone.
Yeah,
yeah, and hopefully 2021 will be a lot better on us.
Well, yeah.
Right, yeah. So as I say, that just about does it for us. Luke, just so people are aware, as a newbie, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Twitter at Luke_Winch. I generally just tweet about science fiction and science. You can find my Observing the Pattern podcast with the We Made This network. You can find that on Twitter at the OTP podcast. You can also find us on Facebook if you type in Observing the Pattern. And that podcast is available on iTunes and Spreaker and Spotify and all those podcast apps. And then I'm also doing the Rarely Going. You can find that at Jean-Luc Podard on Twitter.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, which is what this show actually is.
Yes.
But yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at rmuldrake. That's RMULDRAKE. We've got the Xcast. That's the X_cast, which is the X-Files podcast. The X-Files, and we've just done the Fight the Future. We're moving into season 6, come later in the year. So not long to go for that. I've also got the Millennium podcast, which will be starting up very shortly. That's starting in the middle of September. So not a couple of weeks to go, a few weeks to go before that actually kicks off. And that is the Time Is Now pod. And that was based on the TV show Millennium, which was a spin-off from the X-Files. And that was on between 1996 and 1999. I didn't make the 2000, unfortunately, but never mind. Also, as well, I'm doing the Red Dwarf podcast with co-host as well, Mark Adams, and that is Shipwrecked and Comatose. That's the newest venture that I've been on since the hiatus for Star Trek Picard, and you can find that at Red Dwarf Pod. So those are the best places to find me. So yeah, so thank you very much, Luke, for joining me, and we'll hear your voice on several things moving forward. But as I say, if you probably won't hear from us, you'll get the Discovery stuff, but you won't hear from us until the new year, which will have some specials lined up for you. So we're looking forward to that. But if anything does pop up in Star Trek Picard news, we'll certainly be covering it, and we'll certainly jump on the mic and discuss it. So thank you very much, everyone. So I think that's it. So Luke, as our new Commander-in-Chief, can you set a course for me?
Yep, setting course. All set in.
Excellent. And engage.
Elsewhere on We Made This. The Movie Palace.
Just in very general terms, general thoughts, like, is this a good book? Is this something we would recommend that people go out and spend their hard-earned money on?
Well, if you're going to spend money on a book like this, which is a larger format, sort of like a coffee table book, but a little more compact, you want to look at the quality of it. I mean, the content, I think, is really good in terms of, the breadth and scope of it. It goes from 1921 to 1976. So you really get a good range of letters and missives.
We dig music. Kayfabe, it's originally a wrestling term, but it gets used a lot in describing tropes in entertainment and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Basically, it's like staying in character. So it's like The Undertaker, if he met a kid doing a sign-in, he would stay in character as this, I'm a big scary goth guy. Whereas when he got home, he'd probably, put shorts and t-shirt on and, listen to the Bee Gees or whatever. And Manowar are one of those bands that kayfabe is sort of what they do.
Yeah.
So they're playing characters.
frame to frame.
Michael Jordan is clearly playing a version of himself, which is very hard for somebody to do on screen, especially when acting opposite nothing. But Bob Hoskins made it look extremely effortless when he was acting opposite the cartoons. And you look at even now, the Paddington films, they're acting opposite a tennis ball on a stick, that just for eye lines. So it can be done extremely well, but I think a lot of people will struggle. And I think clearly, as you mentioned, Michael Jordan struggles with that aspect of it.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network. Make It So, a Star Trek Universe podcast, was created and is produced and hosted by Tony Black and Kurt North. You can find the show on Twitter at Jean-Luc Podard and on Facebook in the Make It So, a Star Trek podcast fan group discussion group. Check out the We Made This network at We Made This Pod on Twitter and on Facebook by typing in We Made This, and you can find all of our shows on our website, wemadethispod.com. Thanks for listening.